Joining us now on the Third and 30 podcast is Coach Vance Lefort from Fossil Ridge High School and also a former CSU linebacker. Coach Lefort, thank you so much for joining the show. We're so blessed to have you on.
It's my pleasure, fellas. Great to be able to speak with you, and great to be able to share a little information, a little time, talk a little bit about God, and talk a little bit about football, and both things I love. So great to speak with you guys.
Absolutely. There's nothing better than that. Let's go ahead and dive right in, Coach. And what we like to do, we've had a handful of episodes, and every single guest that we have on, we want to make sure that we find out the story behind where you came from. And if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about your life journey from playing D1 football at CSU to where you are today as a father and a coach at Fossil Ridge High School.
Yeah, I was born in Kansas, in Dodge City, Kansas, and we moved. I was fortunate enough to move out here to Loveland when I was in right before middle school, and I had a great middle school, high school experience at Loveland. Played for an outstanding high school coach, John Pooley, with lots of tradition. Played Division I football at CSU. Had a it was a very interesting time, and I've been blessed to be able to stay in this area my entire life. Have been able to work for the same company I've been working out of from college out of with Walker, and I'm married and have two kids. One is a CSU graduate, a business school graduate, and he's worked with the CSU football program for a number of years. He's currently working at Fossil Ridge High School with special ed students, and I have another daughter who is a junior at Northern Colorado, and she is outstanding student. She's on the dean's list. I'm super proud of them, and I've been blessed to be married to my wife Kelly for 31 years now. So,
wow.
So yeah, I'm a blessed man for sure.
That's awesome, Coach. And you mentioned you're originally from Kansas, and you found your way here to Colorado and spent the last handful of years here. And I want us to walk us through what college football was like for you. Going through the recruiting from Kansas, getting recruited from an out-of-state school, maybe your experiences from being recruited of schools in state, maybe other options, and kind of what some of the expectations maybe that differed from high school, or what you expected going into the college realm, and what kind of stood out to you. But walk us through that experience, being a D1 college athlete.
Well, actually, I might have confused you on that, because I lived in Loveland, Colorado, after Kansas. I moved out here right before middle school.
Okay, I'm sorry. Gotcha.
And so when I was coming out of high school, things were different, obviously, recruiting-wise and whatnot, than they are now. But it still had a lot of the same pressures. At the time, the University of Colorado was with Bill McCartney, and they were building a really good program, but they were at the bottom, and Nebraska was kind of the big dog in this area. Nebraska took whoever they wanted, and when they had Tom Osborne, and so Nebraska was in Colorado State. It offered some outstanding opportunities at Colorado State too, because at that time we were in the WAC with we had BYU and Utah and Hawaii, San Diego State, Wyoming Air Force, kind of the same, a little different, but kind of the same. But the recruiting process started probably my junior year, and at that time we had to actually send out tapes and films and whatnot to coaches, and then you get invited to the spring games, spring practices, attend those kind of things. You get mailers and whatnot, and that's when they first started doing the camps. And I think Nebraska was kind of the forefront of it. Nebraska and they started having recruits out, and you'd go on campus and in the summertime or whatever before, and they would lift. They'd have you lift and run and measure you and do all those kind of things. And I always thought I was a pretty good football player. I was a pretty decent athlete until I went out and I matched up with everybody who Nebraska had on their recruiting lists and whatnot. I knew I was close. I knew I was good, but I also knew there was a lot of other guys who were right there, who were just as good as I were working just as hard as I was, and that kind of thing. So it was good motivation to be at those camps because you could see the kind of competition, the kind of thing, because I just always had in my mind, yeah, I was a pretty good ball player, and I could play wherever I wanted to play, and whatever. And then you get out there and you see the competition, you say, yeah, I got to do that extra stuff. I got to do, put in the extra time to be better. And anyhow, so that was it was a good experience with that, and I decided I would go to Nebraska. I didn't get an offer from Nebraska for I was hoping to, that was kind of my number one choice. And then when it just didn't come through, it was kind of Colorado and CSU and Wyoming, kind of our local area schools, um, New Mexico, those kind of places. Arkansas was actually in the mix. And then Hawaii, I always wanted Hawaii for some reason. Everybody always wants to go to Hawaii. When you live in Colorado, you want to go to Hawaii. But anyhow, Colorado State at that time just ended up as being the right fit for me, and I ended up going to CSU, and it was a blessing. College football, Division I football, is a job. It is you know it's a full student athlete. You're there. Um, and these days they didn't have the limitations on practices like they do now. I mean, they may have limited them somewhat, but we were doing 3 days, and it was, hot, and it was, you know, they limit the water. It was a lot of different things that they don't have now, and so practices were tough, and they were physical, and they didn't limit the hitting type stuff, and so I learned real quick that if you wanted to stick around and play Division I, it wasn't just about getting to campus. Now, and getting a scholarship. Now it was about working your tail off to try and see if you can make the team. I mean, stay with the team. Get yourself a starting spot somewhere, and um, and you find out real quick that it goes from being activity kind of thing in high school, something you really love, to being something you really love, but also knowing that it's a big business, and those coaches have jobs that they, that make some money, and they want you need to perform because they have mortgages to pay, and they got kids coming up, and they're recruiting the next guy to replace you all the time. They're always looking for the next person coming up, and that's just part of the deal. But you find that out real quick.
Coach, I have a curiosity question with that.
Yeah.
You're going to camps, and then finally you get on campus and you're working hard, whether it was in the camps or whether it was in a practice actually at CSU. At what point did it dawn on you in your mind to say, I fit here and I can compete against these athletes? When was that point where you felt the confidence that I belong on the field?
Yep. The first time, the first maybe 2 weeks or so, I was getting pummeled a few times, because there was two tight ends that played in the NFL, and they were seniors, and so when the freshmen stuff, we'd go over, we'd play. I was outside linebacker, inside line, outside, whatever. I was playing outside at the time. So a lot of times I'd line up over these guys, and stuff and whatever. And I remember one time I got through whatever, and the coach ate their butts. The All-American guys, right? He ate their butts. So I knew, I was like, oh, great, here we go. So maybe next play or so, they looked at each other. It was a double team situation. Oh no! Boom! They put me on my back, and I was looking up at the Colorado blue sky. You know what I mean? And so I was like, okay, guys, I know. And and then maybe a few weeks later, I was in a tackling drill, and we were going with the running backs, and there was a kid, and he was 6'2", 220, put together, from California, and good looking running back, and it was like a tackling drill, one-on-one kind of thing, and he was lined up with me in the line, and I kind of knew he was coming up, and I was like, that's fine. He was maybe a junior, I don't know what he was at that time, and I was a freshman or whatever, and I hit him, and I hit him in his. And I hit him. I heard him do that sound when you hit somebody good, and they do that. And he smashed his face mask down on his nose and split his nose and started bleeding and stuff. And so I was like,
wow.
I think I can do this. So after that, I just needed one couple good shots, to where I knew I put the other guy in a little bit of a funky position. So. One second. Yeah. Hey, I gotta get. Yeah. So anyhow.
Oh, that's awesome. And because, we get kids these days. I mean, coach, you know how it is. You see it, whether it was at Fossil Ridge, whether any other school that I've been at, you'll get kids junior, senior year who are getting, D1 offers. And then there's kids that are not getting those D1 offers, and they get upset because they feel like they can play at that level. Even if coaches have had honest conversations with them about, hey, this is really where you are. And, they have trouble recognizing that sometimes. And then there's the kids that kind of fall through the cracks, and you think, wow, this kid really can play D1 football, and nobody's recruiting him. So, it's certainly interesting, because us as our own kind of internal navigation, sometimes we have trouble acknowledging when we can and cannot play at a certain level, or getting to that level and saying, yes, I can do this, and I have the confidence, and, building the belief in the athlete is so important. That.
Oh, no question. And that is hard, because so many kids develop differently at different times, and physically and just athletically, and it's hard to tell. And so many kids get overlooked, and that in the recruiting process.
Mm-hmm.
They just get overlooked, and they get and some are overhyped. There's no question, and I see that a lot in the recruiting. And now I think it's even. I mean, now there's so much more the testing and whatnot, but still, there's a lot of kids who are way overhyped than what they actually are. I mean, kids who are grinders and are going to be great, and they just need a shot, or they've had an unfortunate injury or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've seen some great grinders get overlooked for someone who can maybe flash a bit of talent while in shorts and a t-shirt. And I keep saying, you don't play college football on a big time Saturday in shorts and a t-shirt. You play in full equipment.
You're exactly right. And the thing is, a lot of those guys, they just want the scholarship, or they just wanted a shot. And it's you know, and they don't want to play Saturdays. They don't put all the work, it's going to take. And that grinder guy is going to grind it out year round. He's going to do whatever it takes to get it done. So, yeah, exactly.
Coach, to add on to that, a quick question I have for you is, how much do you think, a kid that might be starstruck or maybe shell shocked by going to that D1 atmosphere and then has no, idea or expectation of, what he's going to see there. How much do you think that has to do with the kind of the preparation process in high school itself, whether that be in school or, from coaches or the program? How much do you think that correlates, between the kid being shell shocked going to that D1 and be like, oh my goodness, I wasn't ready for this or didn't expect this? How much do you think that is affected by what goes on in high school in that preparation process?
Oh, there's no question. You're exactly right. Depending on what kind of program you're coming out of, it's night and day. I mean, I was very blessed, fortunate to come out of an outstanding high school program. So I was more prepared for the D1 atmosphere, the D1 work, the athletes, as opposed to, some kids who come out of programs that there's not that type of, uh, there aren't those kind of programs, and a lot of kids who I played with a few kids who are from Creek and Mullen and, whatnot. And they were prepared a little differently than some of the other kids who were coming from programs that weren't, just because those programs were able to provide a lot of um, expertise and experience with working with kids who went on to D1, and and you could tell through their preparation and just the ease at some of the things they did, and so it definitely makes a difference what kind of high school program kids are coming out of.
Now, Coach, I'm going to take us a step backwards in time, so to speak, because we've kind of fast forwarded and had some great conversation about athletes and what it takes and talking about the grind and stuff like that. I have the distinct honor of living a past experience coaching with you. So I had the distinct honor of being on the field with you, watching how you impact others and watching what you bring to the table, because I could only imagine how you played because I got to see you coach. So I've been honored in that regard. And, when I look back, I actually think of all the conversations we've had over, probably 5 years now. I've never asked you this question, and I'm so excited to hear your answer on it, is what led to you coaching?
Because I love football, I do, but I love impacting kids, young men's lives for Christ is my path. I want to be able to impact their lives so that they are better fathers, husbands, friends, because life is tough. Life throws a lot of curveballs at you. And as a husband, you gotta step up and support your wife. You gotta be there. And I make mistakes every day with that. You know what I mean? But it's just like football. You got to down, you got to fight, you got to get up, you got to keep going. It's with your as a father, you got to be there for your kids. You got to be a leader. You got to be, but you also have to be self-aware. You have to be able to know you have to be coachable. You have to be able to do these things. Say, hey, I'm not doing this right. I need to take a step back, figure it out, help them out. As a friend. friend, you have to be able to reach out to your friends, your other men, put your arms around them, support them. It's that iron sharpens iron. That's what it's about. I mean, that's why I'm in it, because you only got a few days on this earth, right? We have eternity ahead. We have a few days on this earth to impact what we can. And if I can use some of my talents, whatever, to help, reach out to kids, parents, um, fellow coaches, whatever, I'll try and do that. Plus, I love football.
There's nothing wrong with loving football. I think that's the one thing you can tell with someone that played football and now is coaching is that passion for the game. And it's so important. And there's nothing, what I find with football is there's nothing like football because football is the one sport, and other sports have the ability to do so. But I find that football has this innate way of teaching you life while playing the game, and has this way of, you're able to teach the game of life through this game of football. And what better way to do so than to play a game, and to learn it that way. And I think when a kid grasps that idea and is able to grasp it at a young age, I mean, it's impactful to the kid, and it's impactful as a coach to see that change happen. I'm sure you've experienced that yourself, and there's no feeling like it. Am I right?
You're exactly right, Coach. You're exactly right. And those bonds that are formed on a football field are lifelong bonds. I mean, you guys are younger than I am, but if you look back on guys who you played with, guys there's still a connection there that you guys have. I mean, I guys from my high school, I can still call, and we'll talk or whatever, and we instantly we're back at that time. I mean, my high school coaches, I'm still in contact with, and we talk. And my guys who I played with at CSU, I mean, we're on our group chat, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all the time. There's 3 or 4 guys, Sanjay, Fred, Brad, and we all got life stuff going on that we now, we can step in and help each other through. But we would never have that bond if we were just in English class, or we just somebody who I had in science, because you just don't live that lessons that football teaches you, and that the trials and the hardships and the joys and the victories and all that stuff is irreplaceable, and that football provides that, provides that opportunity for us to be able to have for those kids.
I love that you brought up the word opportunity. We love opportunity here, so it's so huge when you get that opportunity is everything. That's what we love to say here. Coach, you've clearly positively impacted so many people in your life. Now, I think we can all easily say that we'd be here without the other people that are in our lives ourselves growing up from a young age, and our circles these days as we're older. Who were some of the mentors or leaders that you looked up to and were impacted by growing up? I know you mentioned some of your teammates from college. I'm sure that obviously those are lifelong relationships, but who were some of those coaches, leaders, mentors that you looked up to growing up and that you still kind of follow or look to today?
Yeah, and that's so true. It's so true because everybody, everybody who's impacted my life in mentor type roles has been my coaches, and specifically my football coaches. I mean, I played football, basketball, baseball, and whatnot through high school, and but it really started in middle school with my middle school coach, Wes Mason. And the first coach I had in middle school was a good coach, and he was trying. You know, he was doing his job, and he was whatever. And then he quit or he left or whatever, and we got a new coach came in the next year. And this guy was the real deal. He was awesome. He came in, he was from the South. I just remember he said, he was this big old guy, played defensive line at Arkansas or somewhere. And he said, now you fellas, he said, football is a contact sport. He said, if you don't like contact, you play ping pong. Ping pong is a non-contact sport. So if you're gonna play football, you're gonna have some contact. Anyway, we ended up going undefeated, and we just we ran over everybody, and I never seen him again. He left after that year. His wife got a job in California or whatever. So, but I still remember him, and I still remember him telling us every night. You know, this group of middle schoolers. You know, if you don't want to play football, you go play ping pong. And anyway, so but he was a great mentor because he taught me a lot about that. He gave me confidence in myself. He recognized some things in me that I had not recognized athletically and other people had not recognized. He gave me opportunities to have success. And then in high school, Coach John Poovey, Loveland High School's head coach at the time, he coached there over 35 years. Outstanding man who he ran his program. Tremendous. He's on the cutting edge of lifting and eating and nutrition and film and everything. And I think he ended up winning 5 state championships.
Wow.
I know Loveland just he set the track for Loveland there, and they were just in their 15th state championship this year and won their 7th. So, and he modeled everything after Nebraska and the way Nebraska was doing at the time, and Tom Osborne, and it worked. But he just was a tremendous leader, character man. I mean, he still talks to me this day, and I can still sit down here on the couch with him, and we can go over whatever. And it's tremendous. And Coach Gene Alvine too, my defensive coordinator at Loveland. He provided me with opportunities, and he saw opportunity in me and put me in positions for success. And um, I know, as in life, a lot of times your success depends a lot on the people around you and the opportunities that it depends on you obviously, but getting the right fit and the right people and the right situation just means a lot. And I definitely had that at Loveland, and then when I got into my working career, Max Walker, who was the founder of the Walker Mowers, this tremendous man who lived his life by faith and by just was able to be a leader, a servant, humble leader. I mean, this guy was the inventor, founder, everything of a $50 million a year company. And he would every day he would wear his cowboy hat and jeans and whatever, and just come out and talk to you about God and family and whatever. And he would come over to your house, whatever. It's just a humble leadership and how that makes a difference, and a commitment to Christ, and being able to have that is and being able to model somebody like that was invaluable in my life, and I'm thankful. I'm definitely thankful for. He's long since passed. but that same value is stuck in his kids and his grandkids who are running the company now, and how the whole company operates. And I've been blessed to be able to be a part of that and a part of that environment for a number of years. So I'm thankful for that for sure.
Coach, it's interesting to hear you go through some of these people that have meant so much to you. And I know for a fact how much you've meant to so many people. I know two phone calls specifically that I can recall having. One was when I was making a really difficult decision to leave Fossil and go to Pooter High School to coach. You and I had a great conversation then, and you know, you were absolutely unhesitating in saying it's the right move. And you know, God has a plan for you. That is an amazing group of guys there. You're going to fit in perfect. You're going to impact those kids. And I want to thank you for that, because it was such a difficult decision to leave the base I had at Fossil and the relationships that I had established with those kids and the parents. and Fossil is not an easy school to coach at. It's not. You've been there for a very long time. And I think that bodes to the man that you are and the relationships that you build with those kids, because those kids leave there and they all remember Coach Lefort. They all look back to you for the wisdom that you've given them over the years. So for all that, I want you to know how grateful I am for you to have been a mentor to me, and that impact that you had on me. And we still talk now just the same as we did when I was coaching there. Nothing changed there. You're a man of your word. You walk the line that you talk to others about walking. And that is, to me, that's the ultimate leadership there, is to be able to say, no, Coach Lefort does that. He doesn't just tell you to do it. He does it himself. So I greatly appreciate you and all the lessons that you've taught me over these years, and very grateful to have you in my life. And, you know, now we're going to take a really deep dive now. We're going deep in this one, because I think to know the man, you have to know his story and what he's gone through to overcome, to understand your belief in Christ, and to understand what he means to you, and how he powers you through, and the strength that he gives. I think you need to know, a listener needs to know the story. You've inspired me, not just from the mentorship, but from the way you live your life. That's been an inspiration to me. And I'm trying to remember, I can't remember exact date. It's probably been, I think, about 4 years now, 3 to 4 years, that you've been in a pretty big battle personally, with cancer and fighting this battle. You've had some enormous obstacles to overcome, some real scares that have come forward. And you know what I want to go through with you now is talk to us a little bit about your journey through this, the obstacles you've had to overcome. What gave you the courage to keep fighting? Because there was moments when things were bleak. What gave you that courage to keep fighting through, and where are you today with things?
Well, thanks, Coach. Thank you for your kind words about me and our relationship. And I've been blessed. I've been blessed to have you in my life. And, uh, you know, and I was so proud of you when you went over to Pooter, because I knew that was the right move. And I knew that was going to be a good fit for you, because I love those guys over there. And they've been nothing but outstanding to me and my family for years. So, and I know the move back to Ohio is going to be great for you. It's going to blossom, and I know that. And so I'm thankful. I'm thankful for that relationship with you, and I know the impact that you had on those kids at Fossil was huge. And you had lots of relationships that but I knew that the Cooter was the right move, and I'm glad that worked out for you. But you're right. It has been 4 years, 3 years of some really intense battle with the gastric cancer, and the only reason that I'm here, standing here today, is by God's grace and by the prayers of family, friends, people, loved ones, people who don't know me, people praying for me, because there's no reason I should still be here, standing. Other than that, other than God's grace. And that's first and foremost. I cannot take any focus away from Him, because He counts my days and He will number my time when it is time. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful for being here. I'm thankful for the prayers of everyone and his healing powers and grace. But yeah, it's it really started probably 3-4 years ago, and I'd started losing weight a lot more than I usually lose a little bit of weight in the football season, and I had lost more weight than usual, and I wasn't eating what I usually eat, and so I went and got checked, and they had diagnosed me with some uh, gastric issue, gastroparesis, which was different, obviously, than can. It was, and they did biopsy. They did they did some. Uh, they found that they didn't see cancer, so they had said I had gastric paresis, and so I was taking medication, different things. And this went on for about 6 months, and I just kept losing weight, getting worse. And my best friend was like, "Dude, this isn't something's wrong. This isn't working." He said, so he looked up the best place in the world for what I had, and he came up with the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and world's number one spot for this. So we went, and it was booked out till, this was like in August, maybe end of July, and it was booked out until November. Would be the first chance. I didn't get a chance to get into the Mayo Clinic, and so we started praying and praying, and like within a week, you can call back once a week in case they have any openings. They cancellations. You can get in, and you can try and get replaced. Anyway, within the first week back, I called back in the time I was able to call in, and there was an opening. There had been a cancellation, and I was like, they needed me out there in 2 days, and I'm thinking to myself, all this stuff going on, I can't get 2 days, back and forth, and whatever, get to Minnesota, and the woman on the line goes, "These don't come open." She said, "You need to take the appointment. These just don't come open." So I was like, I'll take the appointment. And so we got the appointment to go to the Mayo Clinic. My wife and I flew out to Minnesota, came back, and they started doing testing on me. They just did tests, and they did scans and whatnot. And I came back in, and they called me up. I was in the middle of one of these tests, and they called me in. It was like 4 or 5 days of testing, and they called Kelly, my wife, and I up to the office in the Mayo, this giant building at the Mayo Clinic, and the surgeon doctor comes in, and I'm sorry, I have some bad news. It's cancer. We found, cancer, and you were misdiagnosed. Sorry, previously. So, and he said, I don't know. Right now, I don't know how bad it is. How far we have to do more scans and stuff before I can tell you, um, how far you are, how far along, and whatnot. So that's one of those moments that really hits you hard, square between the eye. That's a full on, smackdown, and it was everything, that I just anyway. It was tough. So we went a few days. We had some more scans, and uh, we went a few days, and we came back, and they put me on a treatment plan to 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 start back in with my treatments and whatnot. And anyhow, I ended up coming back home, and we started um, my chemo treatments and whatnot. And that's when I had my stomach rupture a few weeks later into that, and that's the point I almost passed away there. Just thankfully, by the grace of God, they were able to do surgery, emergency surgery on me, and save me. But I was still, battling cancer, had a stomach rupture, a lot of different things going on at that time, and so it was all these things came on at one time, and I was still trying to get through my chemo time and radiation. I followed up with radiation, and they had a plan that I would go back to Mayo for some evaluations in December. This happened like in September, once I healed up from my ruptures and whatnot, um, in early September. So then in December, I headed back up, and they were going to tell me if they thought there was a possibility that they could do surgery and be able to remove the tumor. And um, so I went back in December, and they said, they did some more scans, and they said they were gonna give it a good shot. He felt really good about removing my tumor. Uh, they would have a shot in May, um, but I'd have to go through radiation in February, January, February, March, and get ready. And then April, May, they were going to try and do surgery back up at the Mayo. So I came back home, and I did my chemo and my radiation back here in that winter, and I was preparing to go back up to Mayo for my surgery in the spring. And I went up. Kelly and I went up, and the day before I was supposed to have surgery, I went in and they scanned me, and I came back in for my pre-op meeting, had all my pre-op stuff ready to go, and they said they saw some suspicious fluid areas, and they couldn't do surgery. They said they needed to biopsy, take some a test on those um, areas. So they ended up doing some biopsies and tests and sent me home. So I went back. No, I guess I stayed there. I stayed there because they couldn't get me back into surgery for another 2 weeks. So then I stayed there, and 2 weeks later, they came back and they were going to do my surgery to remove my tumor. And they said that the stuff that they were being concerned about, the fluids and the other areas were okay. They came back negative, and they're going to go ahead and give it a shot to remove my tumor. And so we were all very hopeful. We were all very hopeful. I was at the best place in the world, best surgeon in the world, taking care of me. But we were very hopeful that I was going to get that tumor removed and get on, with my life. And got up that morning, basically ran over to where they were doing the operation, and I went in. And it's supposed to be an 8-hour surgery. And I remember waking up in the recovery room and looking at the clock on the wall and noticing that it was only been an hour and a half, 2 hours. And so I was like, that's not good. So I came back. They wheeled me back up to my room, came around and stuff. And my surgeon came in and he said they couldn't access the tumor. They couldn't get to it. He said they tried for an hour and a half, whatever, and they just couldn't cut through the scar tissue that had built up. I had scar tissue built up from my rupture and the surgeries that they'd done to save my life earlier in the year. But I just developed this scar tissue buildup, and they couldn't get through safely to get to my tumor. So obviously that was a real setback. But since then, I've been back on some. I've been back to some chemo time and back to some different time that they continue to scan me, and I've actually been improving in the last scans and whatnot that they've seen. They haven't been able to find the tumor, so they're thinking that and I've been off chemo now for 6 months, and they haven't been able to find the tumor. So praise God that hopefully the radiation and chemo and everything else that I did previously preparing for the surgery is killing that tumor, and God's killing it. And in the midst of this, I've had some issues with some stents and some tubes and other things, feeding tubes and whatnot that's been put in me, and stuff I battle with every day just to get through the day, to get through that is going to that I'm praying that God takes it to where he heals my body so that I don't have to have a feeding tube. He heals my body so that the cancer doesn't reappear, so that he heals my body so that I can proceed, with a quote normal life. And he's brought me this far, and I don't know why I would be a fool not to look to him now as far as he's brought me. So I would be foolish to doubt his power and his grace and his strength. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm feeling positive about the directions. And I'm trying to put it one day at a time. It always is anyway. God's mercy, His grace. Everything is one day. You know, man is one day. The mercy's one day. All this stuff. You know, we put anger to bed in the evening. All this stuff has to be for one day. And we can get through this day. Boom. We start the next. Boom. Praise God. We got another day. And and that's where I'm at, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for that situation. So it's probably more than you wanted to hear.
No, I mean, Coach, that was incredible. You, it's hard to put into words what's going into my head, but all I could say is you're an inspiration. Yeah, I appreciate you diving in really deep into everything you've been through. I mean, I know for us sitting here, me and Coach Chaddock, I mean, that's you know, I don't know if something we, you know, I could endure myself, and to see your perseverance and your grit, and you know that it seems like that football mentality kicks in right when you needed it most, and you're truly an inspiration, and it's you know, we send prayers all the time your way, and even from afar, um, as I'd read articles or hear about, you know, through the football community about what you're going through, and it's truly been um, an inspiration to just, you know, be able to talk to you right now and have a conversation with you, and I'm truly blessed that you're still here and able to share your story and still impact lives. And you know, the one thing I just keep thinking of is how inspiring it is, and I truly appreciate you. That was I wish you all the best, and I'm definitely on your side and praying every chance I get.
Well, thank you so much, Coach. I appreciate that. And it means a lot because it works. It's true. It does. I mean, God's power, healing power, is the only thing that works. And I'm thankful for that. And you know, if there's any inspiration, whatever that can be, thank you. But it's just inspiring to see, you know, young guys like yourself and Coach Chaddock out there doing what you do because you love the kids, because you love the game, and because you know how it's changed your lives. You know how it's going to change their lives and the lives that they're going to impact in the future. And I'm grateful for that because I know there's a lot of coaches out there who don't think that way, and I've seen it. You coach long enough, you see good coaches, and you see some that aren't so good. And so I appreciate that. You keep grinding, doing it the right way.
Coach, I really appreciate you sharing all that with us. It's inspiring for everyone to hear. And you know, full disclosure to the listeners, I mean, we were trying to get Coach Lefort on at the end of 2020, and I'll use your words, by God's grace, it didn't happen because that story wasn't meant to be told yet. Because I don't think in 2020 people were ready to hear that, because everybody thought this magical button was going to get hit and the world was going to change, you know, at 12:01, you know, January 1st, 2021. And that's just not the way it works. There's not a magical button. And I'm actually 10 times more excited to have you on as our first guest of 2021 to share this story of inspiration and hope, because you are what drives us. And this story is about attacking the damn day, because every day you have to attack the day because you don't know if it's your last. And the last show we did, we talked to our listeners about there was 17 days left in 2020. Don't waste them. Don't use 2020 as an excuse. Don't use COVID-19 as an excuse that you can't do anything. There's things you can do, even if it means staying at home and doing them. And, you know, the message to our listeners now is that, I mean, you've shown us that it's not just about one thing. There's a whole lot of things that go into this. I mean, you've been going through this for years to get to this point. And, you know, that the further disclosure on this was you and I had exchanged some text messages. So the news you just shared, I actually knew before the end of the year. And let me tell you, the excitement that lit up in my family's eyes when I shared the news of they can't find a tumor in Coach Lefort. Let me tell you, and you know, Boo's first reaction was, does he get to have a cheeseburger now?
Exactly.
That was,
We'd sit there and the cheeseburger smell would come down right over the top of us at the CSU game. Dang right, we're gonna have a cheeseburger.
that was his first reaction.
All cheeseburger.
Yeah.
But it'll be one.
You know, Coach Lefort, I can't thank you enough for sharing with us today, and also for being a guiding light for us and showing us that there is hope. There, you know, in challenges, in adversity, there's still hope, and you just got to be positive, and you got to believe that you can get through this, and building that network of people around you that have that same belief. We don't need the negativity. The negative people can just, they can go join a different group. We don't need that. We're about building positive relationships here. And we thank you for being a part of this with us today. It means a lot to us. And, you know, we're excited to hear your news. It's been a long journey. There's still a journey ahead. This is a great landmark in this journey, though. And we're happy for you. We're praying for you. And we love you, Coach. Thank you so much for being with us.
Amen. Thanks, guys. Love you guys. Appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime, Coach. Anytime.
Thanks for having me on.